What's up guys, Coach Az here, and today I want to give you a little bit of a buyer's guide for buying boxing gloves. So whether you're new to martial arts, new to some kind of striking sport, or you're just in the market for some new gloves, here's a couple of things for you to consider and help you to hopefully make a better purchase when it comes to buying gloves. So I'm going to break it down into a few categories of thought. Number one is going to be style, as in what style of glove are you buying? Purpose, what are you going to use them for? Weight, as in how much do the gloves themselves weigh? Materials, and then other considerations. So let's get it started, starting with style. Now, when I say style, I don't mean is it black? Does it have a sport line on it or anything like that? I mean, what discipline are you using it for? Because that's going to vastly affect it. And before I get into any of these tips, if you're at a gym, ask your coach. That's the first thing to do because coaches, different clubs, different schools are going to have very different equipment requirements. So take, for example, my club, when it comes to sparring, we expect our members to wear 16-ounce gloves now. This is something we put in recently. We're trying to do more things to protect our members in terms of concussion and all the rest of it. But for example, those of them who compete often compete in 10 ounce. So they are required, if they are competing and training with us, to own 2 sets of gloves, one for sparring and one for fighting, one for competing. So speak to your coach first. They're going to know exactly what you need, but this is more of a general cover all the bases. Let's get started. Style. Are you boxing? Are you doing Muay Thai? Is it MMA? Is it karate? Is it taekwondo? All of these martial arts and many, many more have got very specific gloves and very specific requirements. So for example, let's say you are a kickboxer. I use this as an example. This is my club. We work under WACO, and WACO have very clear guidelines as to what type of glove you get. It makes it a lot easier in terms of which style to buy. And you might think maybe a Muay Thai glove is the same as a boxing glove, like they all look the same, but there are subtle differences. So be really clear on that one. Be clear on which style you are buying for, and that will guide you towards certain brands and certain materials and certain parts of it. The other thing that comes into style, and this is a general purpose for boxing gloves, is how the glove is secured. So take, for example, the one I've got here just at hand is a Velcro strapped glove. So great for training because obviously they come off and they come on easily. So majority of gloves that you're going to buy will have a Velcro, but of course you will see the ones that have the string. Now this really, when it has the string ties, is a competition glove. The idea is that it's not easy to take off because the last thing you want in the middle of a fight is someone messing around with their gloves, trying to retighten them or restrap them. You see that a lot in amateur sports and it drives me crazy. But in the pros, generally speaking, they'll use a tie glove because once that's on, it requires someone to come and assist you to take them off. So therefore, you know they're not being messed around with, they're not being played with. But realistically, they're not practical for training purposes because it's a lot of work to get them on. You need someone there to help you. Whereas these, if you've got your mouth, you can just Velcro shut both sides of the gloves. So keep that into consideration. Obviously, MMA, you use a large selection of gloves depending on what you're working on. But if you're working on grappling, you need an MMA style glove. Now that doesn't mean you're going to go out and buy the UFC official gloves, because even the MMA training gloves often have a bit more padding and a bit more protection just to help make it a bit more safe. The next thing is purpose, and we kind of touched on this in style, but let me just go into this a bit more. What are you primarily using this set of gloves for? Is it going to be pad work and bag work? Is it going to be sparring? Or is it going to be competition? Because those 3 things might equal 3 different gloves. It may not. Again, this is where I say speak to your coach first. You might just train with 1 glove. For the majority of my training growing up, I trained with 1 set of gloves and they were for everything, including competition. But as the sports are maturing and evolving, you'll see more and more people are having separate equipment for separate occasions. Bag work, for example, I like to use a heavy glove, not to protect the bag, but to make it more difficult for myself. So I like to train personally in a 16-ounce glove. Thing I don't really care too much about on my bag work gloves is what they look like because it's just for me. They're not being worn as part of a competition kit or anything like that. I want them to have the Velcro strap because I want them to come off and on really easy. Yeah. If it's sparring, I still want a heavy glove. So not a lot changes, but that's a personal preference. On the bag, you might desire to wear a lighter glove, maybe somewhere in between so that you can really work at maximum speed. But in sparring, I certainly would like to wear a heavier glove to protect my sparring partners. Now, competition, it's going to be regulated. So depending on what your sport is and depending on the federation or the alliance that you train under, they're going to have a specific requirement. Likely, it's going to be something like 10-ounce gloves with a Velcro strap, and they might even put certain guidelines in terms of brands. And we'll come on to brands towards the end of the video because I think it's one of the least important parts of it, but we will come on to it anyway. The next thing which comes along with purpose, and we've discussed it already, is the weight. So this is where people get confused. They go, what size glove should I buy? Gloves often aren't done in sizes. So it's not, if you didn't know this, you're not going to find small, medium, large. You're probably going to find a kid size and then the weights, and then the adult size and then the weights. So if you have freakishly small hands, you might fit in the kid size gloves, but they're generally a one size fits all. It's not really about, how far in your fingers go and all the rest. If you want to get custom gloves made, that's another story, and then you can get them really kind of tailored to fit you. But generally speaking, it's one size fits all, and what changes is the weight. So, I was talking earlier about my club requiring 16 ounce. That's generally speaking for men. For ladies, I allow them to wear a lighter weight glove, but only a little bit. So like 12 to 14 ounces for the ladies, 16 to 18 ounces for the men. Simply because, and this is nothing, specific, this isn't about, gender biases or anything like that, but women don't hit as hard as men, and they've also not got as much upper body strength. So for a tiny 5-foot woman to have to wear a 16, 18 ounce glove, it's going to really change the way that she throws a punch. It's going to actually affect her technique at that point. Weight is a big significance, and you need to just be clear on what your requirements are for them, and again, what their use purposes are. The amount of time I have new people come in, they go, I've got these boxing gloves, can I use them? And they're like a 6 ounce or an 8 ounce glove. And I'm just looking at them like, no, man, you can't, because at that point, and normally they're like beaten up as well, it's just material covering your fingers, and it's not really offering any protection to your hand or your partner that you're training with. The next thing, and this is the one where people get caught out a lot or they get confused a lot, is material. Generally speaking, gloves are made of one of two. They're either made of leather or they're made of PU, polyurethane, some kind of plastic coating. Here's my stance on this. I, 9 times out of 10, would buy a PU glove, which is the cheaper alternative than a leather glove. And it's nothing to do with the fact that it's cheaper. It's the fact that I get through gloves fast. So if you're training a lot and regularly and hard, you're probably going to burn through, regardless of material, gloves pretty quickly. More from the sense that they're just going to get gross. Like the leather gloves, they last longer, so the material itself might withstand. But the interior, the filling, the stuffing, the material, it gets pretty nasty pretty quick. So I personally like a quick turnover. So I don't invest in a very expensive glove for that very reason. The big difference between the two materials is the durability. So the leather gloves are going to last you a lot longer. That material is a lot more rugged than the PU ones generally are. But of course, they're going to cost quite a lot more, significantly more to buy a leather glove over something that's polyurethane coated. The other thing that comes into this, and I don't see enough people talking about this, leather is heavier. So let's say the glove is a standard 16 ounce glove. If you buy a leather glove, the leather weighs more. And what does that mean if the gloves must weigh 16 ounces? You've got one pair in PU, one pair in leather. What's going to be the difference to ensure they both weigh the same? It's going to be the amount of padding. So how big the glove is and how full the glove is. A 16 ounce leather glove will be smaller than a 16 ounce PU glove because PU doesn't weigh as much. So they have to fill it more to get it up to weight. What that means is it's a safer glove in terms of practice. Again, we're talking from a training point of view. Now, practicality in terms of competitiveness, I try to get the smallest glove humanly possible and allowed within that federation. Again, it depends on how heavily regulated it's going to be. And, obviously you need to take into consideration your own personal moral compass in terms of trying to get away with using a glove that's not going to be safe against someone. Again, we're not trying to kill each other here. It's all about competition and or sparring. So leather PU, generally I would say for training, PU gloves, you can get a leather pair for competition if you really want to, and some people I know, they just have a preference for the leather, and that's absolutely fine. The last thing is the other considerations, and here I will include things such as brand, the looks, the feel of it, as in how it feels on your hand, and price. Brands. Now, don't get too caught up on it in the sense that don't feel like you have to get this brand because you've seen your favorite fighter wearing it, or these guys. Most of that is sponsorship, especially at the very top. It has no reflection on the quality of the glove, but they get paid to say it's the best glove ever made. I'm sure you're aware of that. Looks. Personally, I don't care too much. I generally go for matte black everything, so I just look for black gloves as a personal preference. It comes down to you guys. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life in terms of gloves. You want crazy loud gloves, go get them. I guess martial arts, it's an expression of yourself, right? You express yourself through your kicks and punches, and for a lot of people that then extends to the style. The color shorts you wear, the color t-shirt you wear, the gum shield you get. It's all part of the story. So I have no opinion on it other than if it's me, it's matte black everything. The feel is an important one. This is why I say be careful buying gloves online, and if you can find a store, if you have to drive a little further out to go find somewhere to go try some gloves on, I really recommend it, because you can get free gloves that have all the same specs. They weigh the same, they're made from the same materials, they are put down as being for the same sport, and you'll put your hand in all three of them and they will feel significantly different. And that's a big deal. So again, I'll just point these ones out. These RDX gloves, they're not the best on the market. They're not particularly expensive. They're not particularly fancy. But for my training, my general purpose training, I like the way they feel. I like the way my hand fits in them. I feel that my wrist gets a certain level of support. Obviously, we should be wrapping our hands anyway. So I have a preference for these. I feel like they got a lot of padding at the front, and I like protecting my training partners. So for me, that's a vital component. I wouldn't compete in them, but I would train in them, and I do a lot. This isn't an endorsement. I'm not sponsored. I got a lot of thing about this bag review that I did. People saying that it was a marketing video. I wish. I've not got enough subscribers to get that. But I do enjoy those personally. The last thing is, of course, price. And this is a big one because you'll notice when you look online, you can get gloves for £10, $10, €10, and you can get gloves for hundreds of pounds and euros and dollars. And I will always say to people, get the best gloves you can afford to, whilst also considering the fact that they are not going to be with you forever unless you're a little bit gross. I don't get personally attached to equipment. It's a tool to be used for the amount of time I can use it for, and then they get thrown away and I get another set. Especially beginners, they get very invested in what equipment to buy as if it's like a lifetime decision. And with gloves, personally, I think anyway, it really isn't. It's just something that's going to change over time. Buy the best gloves you can afford. Do not get the cheapest gloves you can get. They will fall apart. The stitching will come apart. The material on the inside will break down really quickly. The Velcro will give up on the strap really fast. You, to a certain extent, do get what you pay for with these things. So I would say above £30, below £60 is a good sweet spot in terms of quality for value. You can go below that and you'll probably find some decent gloves. You can certainly go above that. You'll find some great gloves. But unless you're a pro fighter and you're doing this all the time, I don't feel the need for you to be going up there. And even if you are, watch some of these pros training. They're just using the bog standard gloves they find in the club. It's not the most important purchase you're ever going to make in your fighting career. So don't get too hung up on it. Guys, I hope this has been helpful. I've rabbled on a little bit with it, but I've just tried to provide as much information as I can. Again, I'll just go back to what I said at the start of the video, which is ask your coach. Speak to your club and understand what they require. You might buy through them. That also supports your club by making a purchase through them as well. So think about that. And if you're going out on your own to look for them, where you can, go and try them on rather than buy online, or secure an option where you can send them back nice and easy and nice and quick. Guys, I'll see you on the next one.